Chapter 15, Part 1 of How I Found Livingstone. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. How I Found Livingstone. Travels, Adventures, and Discoveries in Central Africa, including 4 months' residence with Dr. Livingstone. By Sir Henry M. Stanley. Chapter 15, Part 1. Homeward Bound. Livingstone's Last Words. The Final Farewell. Unyanyembe was now to me a terrestrial paradise. Livingstone was no less happy. He was in comfortable quarters, which were a palace compared to his hut in Ujiji. Our storerooms were full of the good things of this life, besides cloth, beads, wire, and the 1,001 impedimenta and paraphernalia of travel, with which I had loaded over 150 men at Bagamoyo. I had 74 loads of miscellaneous things, the most valuable of which were now to be turned over for Livingstone for his march back to the sources of the Nile. It was a great day with us when, with hammer and chisel, I broke open the doctor's boxes, that we might feast our famished stomachs on the luxuries which were to redeem us from the effect of the cacotrophic dourah and maize food we had been subjected to in the wilderness. I conscientiously believed that a diet on potted ham, crackers, and jellies would make me as invincible as Talus, and that I only required a stout flail to be able to drive the mighty Wagogo into the regions of annihilation, should they dare even to wink in a manner I disapproved. The first box opened contained 3 tins of biscuits, 6 tins of potted hams, tiny things, not much larger than thimbles, which when opened proved to be nothing more than a tablespoonful of minced meat plentifully seasoned with pepper. The doctor's stores fell 500 degrees below zero in my estimation. Next were brought out 5 pots of jam, one of which was opened. This was also a delusion. The stone jars weighed a pound, and in each was found a little over a teaspoonful of jam. Verily, we began to think our hopes and expectations had been raised to too high a pitch. 3 bottles of curry were next produced, but who cares for curry? Another box was opened, and out tumbled a fat, dumpy Dutch cheese, hard as a brick, but sound and good, though it is bad for the liver in Unyanyembe. Then another cheese was seen, but this was all eaten up. It was hollow and a fraud. The third box contained nothing but 2 sugar loaves, the 4th candles, the 5th bottles of salt, Harvey, Worcester, and Reading sauces, essence of anchovies, pepper, and mustard. Bless me! What food were these for the revivifying of a moribund such as I was? The 6th box contained 4 shirts, 2 pairs of stout shoes, some stockings and shoestrings, which delighted the doctor so much when he tried them on that he exclaimed, "Richard is himself again." "That man," said I, "whoever he is a friend indeed." "Yes, that is my friend Waller." The 5 other boxes contained potted meat and soups, but the 12th, containing 12 bottles of medicinal brandy, was gone, and a strict cross-examination of Asmani, the head man of Livingstone's caravan, elicited the fact that not only was 1 case of brandy missing, but also 2 bales of cloth and 4 bags of the most valuable beads in Africa, sami, which are as gold with the natives. I was grievously disappointed after the stores had been examined. Everything proved to be deceptions in my jaundiced eyes. Out of the tins of biscuits when opened there was only 1 sound box, the whole of which would not make 1 full meal. The soups, who cared for meat soups in Africa? Are there no bullocks, and sheep, and goats in the land, from which far better soup can be made than any that was ever potted? Peas, or any other kind of vegetable soup, would have been a luxury, but chicken and game soups? What nonsense! I then overhauled my own stores. I found some fine old brandy and 1 bottle of champagne still left, though it was evident, in looking at the cloth bales, that dishonesty had been at work, and some person happened to suggest Asmani, the head man sent by Dr. Kirk in charge of Dr. Livingstone's goods, as the guilty party. Upon his treasures being examined, I found 8 or 10 coloured cloths with the mark of my own agent at Zanzibar on them. As he was unable to give a clear account of how they came in his box, they were at once confiscated and distributed among the most deserving of the doctor's people. Some of the watchmen also accused him of having entered into my store room, and of having abstracted 2 or 3 goras of domestics from my bales, and of having, some days afterwards, snatched the keys from the hands of one of my men, and broken them, lest other people might enter and find evidences of his guilt. As Asmani was proved to be another of the moral idiots, Livingstone discharged him on the spot. Had we not arrived so soon at Unyanyembe, it is probable that the entire stock sent from Zanzibar had in time disappeared. Unyanyembe being rich in fruits, grain, and cattle, we determined to have our Christmas dinner over again in style, and being fortunately in pretty good health, I was enabled to superintend its preparation. Never was such prodigality seen in a tembe of Unyamwezi as was seen in ours, nor were ever such delicacies provided. There were but few Arabs in Unyanyembe when we arrived, as they were investing the stronghold of Mirambo. About a week after our return, the little mannikin, Sheikh Said bin Salim el Walhi, who was the commander-in-chief of their forces, came to Kwihara from the front. But the little Sheikh was in no great hurry to greet the man he had wronged so much. As soon as we heard of his arrival we took the opportunity to send men immediately after the goods, which were forwarded to the Wali's care soon after Livingstone's departure for Mikindany Bay. The first time we sent men for them the governor declared himself too sick to attend to such matters, but the second day they were surrendered, with a request that the doctor would not be very angry at their condition, as the white ants had destroyed everything. The stores that this man had detained at Unyanyembe were in a most sorry state. The expenses were prepaid for their carriage to Ujiji, but the goods had been purposely detained at this place by Said bin Salim since 1867, that he might satisfy his appetite for liquor, and probably fall heir to 2 valuable guns that were known to be with them. The white ants had not only eaten up bodily the box in which the guns were packed, but they had also eaten the gun stocks. The barrels were corroded, and the locks were quite destroyed. The brandy bottles, most singular to relate, had also fallen a prey to the voracious and irresistible destroyers the white ants, and, by some unaccountable means, they had imbibed the potent Hennessy, and replaced the corks with corn cobs. The medicines had also vanished, and the zinc pots in which they had been snugly packed up were destroyed by corrosion. 2 bottles of brandy and 1 small zinc case of medicines only were saved out of the otherwise utter wreck. I also begged the doctor to send to Sheikh Said, and ask him if he had received the 2 letters dispatched by him upon his first arrival at Ujiji for Dr. Clerke and Lord Clarendon, and if he had forwarded them to the coast as he was desired to do. The reply to the messengers was in the affirmative, and subsequently I obtained the same answer in the presence of the doctor. On the 22nd of February the pouring rain, which had dogged us the entire distance from Ujiji, ceased, and we had now beautiful weather; and while I prepared for the homeward march, the doctor was busy writing his letters, and entering his notes into his journal which I was to take to his family. When not thus employed we paid visits to the Arabs at Tabora, by whom we were both received with that bounteous hospitality for which they are celebrated. Among the goods turned over by me to Dr. Livingstone, while assorting such cloths as I wished to retain for my homeward trip, were: first class American sheeting, 285 doti, 1140 yards. First class kaniki, blue stuff, 16 doti, 64 yards. Medium kaniki, blue stuff, 60 doti, 240 yards. Medium Dabwani cloth, 41 doti, 64 yards. Medium Barsati cloth, 28 doti, 112 yards. Printed handkerchiefs, 70 doti, 280 yards. medium Rahani cloth,